Hello guys, welcome to AppDev channel. In today's video, we will discuss about constructors in Java programming language. We will get to know more details about what is a constructor, what are the different types of constructors, how to create the constructors, uh, what is constructor overloading, what is a private constructor, all those topics we will go through in today's video. So let us start with what is a constructor. Okay. We know that a class contains a list of methods and properties, right? So, constructor is a special type of method present in every class that is used to construct the objects of the class. So, what does it mean by constructing an object of a class? Okay, constructor is used to construct an object with some initial values. Okay, we will see how we construct an object with initial values with an example. But before going to that example, we have some rules to define a constructor. Okay, let us see with an example that as well. Okay, see my class. Okay, class person. Okay, this is my class. This is how we create a class, right? See, this person class is having some properties: private int id, private string name. Okay, these are the properties defined for this class, and there are some public void set id, int id. This dot id is equal to id. Okay, this is the setter method to set the data to id. Okay, there is a getter method public void get id. uh, not void, this returns some int value. Okay, because we are going to return the id from it, right? So return id. Similarly, we have the setter and getters for name as well. Public void set name, string name. I'm going to assign it to the current instance. That's why we are using this operator here. I'm going to return the name. That's why the return type is string for this method. Okay, this is my class. Okay, okay, let me save it. Person class, right? Person. I'm saving it. Person. Now, let me compile it with Java C person.java. Okay, return name. Okay, there is some problem. Yeah, small name. This is a compiled version, right? Okay. See here, this class is having two private properties and the setter and getters to set the data and get the data of those properties. Okay. Suppose if you want to instantiate this class, we do that in our main method, right? Public static void main string args. Okay, what we will do here, person1 is equal to new person. Okay, the moment we say new person, right, an object will be created in the heap memory, right? An object will be created in the heap memory, and whatever the variables, the class level properties defined, right, for those variables memory will be allocated in the heap memory, and that memory location will be pointed out by this person one. Okay, see here, we are saying memory is allocated to these class level variables, right? See, whenever we declare something like this new class name, right, JVM will try to look for a method with the same name as that of new person, okay, new class name here in your class, okay. But here, as we know, constructor is also a method, right? Here we are not seeing any that kind of method, okay. So, uh, but during compilation of your program, your your class file, I mean the .java file will be converted into the class file, right? Let me open that class file here, java p person.class. If you see here, see this, there is a constructor created, okay. So whatever, even though you are not writing any default constructor, that is provided during the compilation time, JVM is going to pick up this constructor and initialize the memory for the variables that are defined in the class, okay. And the values which will be assigned to those variables is the default values, because we are not assigning any values to it, right? Suppose if I print the values now, system.out.println of person1 dot get id. If I print it, let us see what it will print. See this, here I have not assigned any value to this id, but it is giving me 0, which means that during the object creation by this new operator, a constructor is called. The default constructor which is provided during the compilation time is called by the JVM, and JVM is going to create a memory for the variables, and it is going to assign the default values even though you have not assigned any initial values, okay. That is how the default constructor is one type of constructor is provided to your class during the compilation phase and will be picked up by the JVM to do the initial value assignment, to construct the object with initial values or default values, okay. That is one type of constructor, okay. Now let's say, for example, I provide a constructor here like this. See, this is the first rule of the constructor, okay. Constructor name should be same as the class name, okay. It may or may not accept any parameters, but it should not return any type, not even void. See here, this is one type of method, it is returning void, right? This is one type of method, it is returning int. Constructor is also one type of method, but it should not return anything, okay. It is just, its purpose is to construct the object with the given values, okay. Now if I do like this, right? Say for example, this dot id is equal to 100, this dot name is equal to appdev. This is the string and number I'm giving, assigning it here. Now let's say for example, uh, I am calling the same new person with the to create an object, right? So now the whatever the logic you have given or you have provided as a default constructor or the zero argument constructor, this is now called as zero argument constructor. We are not passing anything to it, right? So whatever the zero argument constructor you have provided, that will be executed, okay. Let us see. Now JVM, I mean, or the compilation process will not create any default constructor now, because your class itself is already having it, right? See this, whatever the class, whatever the code we have here, right, in the constructor, that is assigned to that instance variable, and whenever I'm trying to get it, that value is coming. So which means that, let me print it again, the name as well, okay. See, whatever the values we have assigned here in the constructor, those are as being assigned to the as initial values uh, to your class level variables for that particular instance. Which means that an constructor is used to assign initial values to your class level variables. That is one point. Also, if you want to do some initial set of statements to be executed, say for example during the constructor or during the object creation, I want to call another class, or I want to connect to some other external system and get the connection to it, or some database systems. In those scenarios, we can make utilize of this constructor. Okay, if at all you want to do something during the object creation, all those things you have to do it in the constructor. Okay, so this is about the zero argument constructor. Okay, we have seen two types of constructors, and we have got the details about what is a constructor and what is the purpose of the constructor as well. Now let us look at the another type of constructor. Okay, see this this person 2. See here I am creating two objects now. One is referred with to person 1 and the other one is referred with person 2. Okay, now if I print person 2 dot get id, okay, see this, see this 100 abdo 100 abdo. So if you want to assign some initial values to your class variables or to your instance variables, basically to your instance variables, for as many instances you create, for those many instance variables you want to share the similar data, or you want to start your data, you want to start the variables data with some initial values, then this constructor is helpful. Okay, this whatever the initial values you assign here, they will be assigned to as many instances you create, like person 1 and person 2. If I create person 3, person 3 id and name also will be initialized with 100 and abdo only. Okay, this is one way of assigning multiple values to same values to multiple objects. Okay, say for example, I want to assign different set of values for each instance. Okay, say 100, okay, app dev, 200 mobile dev. Okay, one more example. We'll take AI developer. This is person 3, right? Yeah. If I copy this, let me print the person 3 as well. Now I am assigning different arguments. I'm calling a constructor here with some arguments. Okay, now let me print it, let me execute it, compile it. See this constructor person in class person cannot be applied to given types. See here we are having a constructor, we are calling a constructor with the two arguments, but your class is not having any constructor. Okay, let me remove it. We know that a constructor will be provided, right? We know that a constructor will be provided during the compilation time if your class is not having any constructor. Okay, currently it is having a constructor, that's why you are getting that error. Let me remove this one. Okay, uh, yeah, see this even now, because you are trying to call, you are trying to construct this person one object with these parameters, but your class is not having it, so we have to explicitly declare it. Okay, uh, person, that should take two arguments, right? String name, and we have to assign it to the current instance, that's why we have to use this operator, this dot name is equal to name. Now if I print, let me compile it. See again, yeah, there is a problem. Here it should be the integer value, right? Now let me compile it. So this is compiled. See, I have assigned different set of values to each instance, and I am getting it 100 app dev, 200 mobile dev, 300 AI developer, right? So these are the ways. I mean, this is called as a parameterized constructor. Okay, this is called as a parameterized constructor. So we have seen three kinds of constructors. Zero default constructor, which will be provided during compilation time. Zero argument constructor, which we have to write explicitly, and the parameterized constructor. Okay, these are the kinds of constructors which are available in Java. In any Java class you can mention or you can write. Okay, so let's say for example now let us move to the topic uh, constructor overloading. Okay, constructor overloading means the method definition will be same, but there will be a difference in the number of parameters or type of parameters. Okay, let's say for example I have a constructor here. Okay, and it takes only one argument. Okay, this dot id is equal to id. Okay, see here, if you see this class is currently having two kinds of constructors. This is one single parameter constructor. This is two parameterized constructor. Okay, so this is called as constructor overloading. Okay, uh, constructors having the same name. Anyways, the constructor will always be having the same name, right? So constructors which are differ with the number of parameters or the type of parameters, then it is called as constructor overloading. Okay, say for example in a scenario where I want to pass only the id to construct an object. Okay, I don't want to mention any name for this person 4, but what will happen if I print person 4 data? Let us see. Now let us compile it. See this. See here, whatever the arguments you are passing here, two arguments you are passing, right? So two parameterized constructor will be executed for it. Here you are passing only one parameter, right? So one parameterized constructor will be executed. Okay, that is how the constructor overloading works. Okay, let us go to another topic. The topic is this is one point which I want to highlight. See here, I am providing a single parameter constructor or a two parameter constructor, whatever it is. Okay, now if I call like this, right, person 0 is equal to new person. See here, here I am trying to call the zero argument constructor, but my class is having only single argument or the two argument constructor. Okay, let's say for example my class is not having any of these constructors. Okay, let me comment this and let me comment this as well. Okay, now if I call the zero argument constructor with a new operator, that will be compiled successfully. There is no problem with the execution as well. But if at all my class is having any constructor, okay, uh, one argument constructor or the two argument constructor, whatever it is, in such scenarios, if we try to write it, if we try to call the zero argument constructor, okay, in the earlier scenario, even though your class is not provided with the zero argument constructor and your class is not at all having any constructor, in such scenario the compilation process provides the zero default constructor to your class. That's why this line of code executed. Now your class is having one argument and the two argument constructor, right? Two parameterized constructor. But you are trying to call a zero argument constructor. Now let us see what will happen. See this, no suitable constructor found for person, which means that if at all you are providing any parameterized constructor, it is your responsibility to provide the zero argument constructor as well. I am not going to provide any zero argument or the default constructor to your class. That's what the compiler will say. Okay. See, this is now executed, right? So this is one another point which I want to highlight. So when we were talking about rules of a constructor, right? We talked about constructor name should be same as the class name. It may or may not take any parameters like this, but it should not return any return type, not even the void like this. It is not returning any return type, right? There are two other rules. Okay. Uh, a constructor can be declared with access specifiers like private, public, protected, or without any access specifier as well. We will talk about these access specifiers in the later videos, but for now, let us remember it. There are some access specifiers, private, public, and protected like this, right? So if you mention any private constructor, that will be accessible only within the class. Public will be available. Constructor will be available to all the classes. Protected will be available only for the subclasses. That is the definition of those constructors. We will get to know more details in the later videos, but for now uh, we can think that we can mention those access specifiers or access modifiers for a constructor, like we are mentioning it for methods. In the same way we can mention them for constructor as well. But there are some other access modifiers like static, abstract, synchronized, final, all those things we cannot mention to constructors. Okay, those are the rules while we have to remember while we are defining the constructor. Now we talked about constructor overloading as well, right? Okay, there is another topic, constructor chaining. Okay, see here, here constructor chaining means calling a constructor from another constructor. That is called as constructor chaining. Okay, see, let me remove this person 0. This is not required now. See here, for any person, uh, for any person instance, I am instantiating only with an ID. All those instances should be having a same name. That is my requirement. So in such scenarios, this is the one argument constructor or one parameter constructor, right? This is what it is. Now if I mention, uh, let us say for example this of id comma, I want to mention a similar name to all the instances which are constructed only with the id, right? So I want to mention a similar name. So let us mention iOS developer. Okay. So here, this accepts the single argument or the single parameter constructor, and it is assigning it to the class level variable. And here we are calling another constructor that is available in this class and also for this instance. And we are passing two arguments, two parameters to it. First parameter is int type and its name is id, and the second parameter is string type. Okay, so we are calling a constructor which is having the two parameters that is there here only, right? So here we are calling two parameter constructor from one parameter constructor. This is called as constructor chaining. Okay, let's say for example here I am having first person 4 with only id, right, passed to it. Let's say what output or what is the name it gives. Okay, see, a call to this must be the first statement in the constructor. Okay, this is the error we get it, right? So Let us remove this one. Okay. Now let us run it. Okay. See, this 400 iOS developer is coming because we are giving the same name, right? Say for example, if I mention person 5 as well, and let me print the person 5 as well. Okay. If I print it now, see 500 iOS developer, the same name which is given in the single parameter constructor while calling the two parameter constructor, right? That is being shared to all the parameter, all the instances basically. Okay. This is about constructor chaining, calling a constructor from another constructor like this. Okay. Okay, there is one special topic which I want to highlight here. Okay, in a scenario where you want to restrict the creation of instances to your class only within the same class, right? Say, for example, uh, here we are creating an object, right, to your class in the same class. Say, for example, I am going to create a new class now. Okay, class employee. Okay, this employee class is having some float uh, int salary. Okay, this is having some method like public void set salary int salary. This dot id is equal to id public void get salary public int get salary of return salary. This dot salary, right? Yeah, salary. Okay, now let me save this one as well. Now let me try to compile it. Okay, okay, this is fine, but let me compile employee class. This is also fine, right? Let me execute this. Okay, we won't be able to run it because we don't have the main function. That's okay. Let me run it. Let me add the main function here as well. Employee is equal to new employee. Okay. Now let me compile it. So this is executed, right? So here this person class is there, right? And whatever the constructor we declared here without any access specifier. Okay, which means that there is a package level or the default access level that will be applied if you don't mention anything. Package means within the same folder structure or within the same package. Okay, uh, here we saved the employee class and also the person class within the same package, right? So let me try to call person is equal to new person of 600. Okay, uh, person dot this. Okay, person dot get what is that? Get ID, right? Let me copy it from here. Person. Now let me compile it. Let me run it. That is okay. Let me compile employee class as well. Let me execute this. See, 600 I was told. So employee class is in the same package, but it is a different class. I'm calling its constructor from another class, but that is also within the same package. So here we are calling constructor, or we are creating an instance of this person class from some other class. Okay, that is how it behaves if we don't mention any constructor. Suppose if my requirement is to restrict the object creation of this class to be limited only to this class. I don't want other classes to create an instance to my class. Okay, in such scenarios we can mention private access specifier. Okay, private access specifier. If I mention like this, let me compile first the person class. Person is compiled, executed. Now let me compile employee class. See, this constructor person in class person cannot be applied to given types. Okay, that is one thing. Here if you see person int has private access in person. Okay, that is a problem. Okay, person int has private access in person. So here we declare person as private constructor here with the one parameter constructor. But here we are trying to call from the another class. As we declared a constructor as private, it cannot be created. I mean, the instance cannot be created from another classes. That is called as a private constructor. Suppose, I mean, this is one of the principles to limit only one instance creation of a class. Suppose in a requirement where you don't want other classes to create an instance and you want only one instance at any point of time to be created for your class, right? Then the first and foremost principle is to make your constructor private. There are other principles like we have to prevent the cloning, we have to prevent the serialization. There are other principles in order to ensure at any point of time only one instance will be present in JVM for a class. But the first principle is to make the constructors private. Okay, that's all about private constructors. So we have seen what is a constructor, what are the different types of constructors, constructor overloading, constructor chaining, private constructors, how to declare the different constructors, how to call the constructors, how to call a constructor from another constructor. All these topics we have seen in today's video. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Please give it a like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.